sitting, being, not being elsewhere with the mind, just being here, sitting. And with each breath, let go of whatever you were doing before, whatever you're doing next. And just bring your awareness to being here. And think about all the stuff that's going right with your body, with your breath. The fact that it's going in and out is a great start. Bring to mind the reason that you decided to come this morning and try to generate a good intention to use this time well that kind of goes with the reason you show up. For me, it's like intention to stay open, to listen, to share. And with the hope that it doesn't just benefit others in this moment, that it will carry over to benefit others later in the day, later in the week. So let's read the 4 immeasurables. It's on page 34. He's trying to get it there. It's okay. Is this working? I have to have it like near my mouth. Does anybody need it? Or am I loud enough for all you guys?
It's fine for me.
Well, if it isn't, don't hesitate to speak up because not everybody hears as well as others. And I know my voice is high, and my stepmom cannot understand me on the phone at all. It's like, that's all she Sorry about that, all those wear hearing aids. I've just been trying to figure out how to learn how to speak lower, but I don't think I get that. I don't know how. Well, apparently she can't quite adjust it. She can in person, but we're probably asking too much of her. but she did celebrate her 95th birthday. So,
Wow.
so she had a lovely time. All right. So now with that idea in mind that we work on our minds, we work on our spiritual path, not just for ourselves, but because we care about people around us. We're working on it to benefit others. So, 4 immeasurable minds. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Sentient beings be happiness that is free from suffering. Sentient beings free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. We have the people who know it by heart. We have the people who are reading from the screen, and we have the people reading from the book. So we do it in round here. We say the prayers in round. So now we read the Refuge Bodhicitta prayer, if you're comfortable to do so. And that's on page 98 if you'd rather use the book. And our master of ceremonies on the Zoom and on the screen lives in Portugal. So there's a slight time lag there. So, you're not sharing your screen, are you?
I'm not signed in for some reason.
Yeah, but it's so, okay, I see. All right. Anyway, thank you, Nan. All right. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Okay. So where's your mind this week? I guess you don't have one? Why do I focus on the mind? We're doing 0 for what? Batten 0? What is that? Not batten anything. I've lost my file. Okay. Everything comes from the mind. Consciousness is everything here. In Buddhism, that it's, and of course in Buddhism, the mind is not, we don't, parse it out into intellect or, heartfelt states of mind. They're all mind, whether they're, you're using your reasoning mind, whether you're using your compassionate mind, these are all states of mind. They're not, they, generally, if you ask Asians to point to their mind, they point to their heart. They consider this the center of their consciousness, their awareness. So it's important to make that distinction, because when you read text or hear me talk or whatever, you may think that it's all about talking up from the head, and it's not. That's not what it is. So we're trying to get in touch with our capacity to change our mind, to work with our mind, to work with whatever comes up in the mind, to just, to recognize it for the malleable, phenomenon that it is, that it's not stuck, it's not fixed, it's habituated. And we can habituate it to new things, things that we'd rather habituate it to instead of our habit of worry or fear or anger or whatever. So someone asked recently, I think, about whether the mind was pure, because you hear that often, that the mind is pure. Anybody remember asking that? Okay, well, too bad, because I'm going to talk about it for a minute. So the definition of mind is, that which is clear and knowing. And so we can take the idea of clarity as being pure, but that's not really what it's getting at in the sense of the connotation of pure in my mind, it's clarity, which is, when you get like an enlightened being, the clarity of an enlightened being has no pollution. And the pollution are things like anger and greed and fear and, those things that muddy the truth, muddy the way we see reality. So just like, so an example they often give is water, so pure water is H2O, right? So in order to drink pure water, you have to remove anything else from that liquid that's not H2O. So our mind is similar to that. We want to get down to the clarity and knowing aspect of the mind, that capacity we have. We have to remove all the other stuff, because disturbing states of mind like anger and jealousy and greed and envy and desire and craving and on and on. It's like it's like a cloud that forms in the mind, and we cannot see things as they are because they're under the influence of incorrect, mistaken states of mind. So this mind of bodhicitta we've been talking about, the mind of a bodhisattva, this mind that wants to become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings, it's a mind that's full of that, the state of compassion for others, this wish that beings were free from suffering, including ourselves. So it's not really just, it's like, that's why we say all sentient beings. We don't have to say all other sentient beings. So we're in the picture. So we need to have some contact with this state of mind, with our state of mind when it's at peace, to get a sense of how disturbing emotions cloud the mind. And so one of those ways, is just sitting in meditation, just letting yourself experience being a body and mind quietly. Does anybody have trouble doing that? Yes. So this is one of the points, is when I say quietly, I mean in quiet surroundings. Your mind's not going to be quiet. That's what it does. It thinks, it's busy. And we need to get comfortable with that. We're just, there it goes, because we don't have to follow our thoughts. We think we do, but we really don't. So we need to be able to just sit, be aware, and not do anything. Not act from states of mind. Just be. This is hard to do. So that's why it's, something that we have to practice, because it really isn't easy to just have thoughts arise and you just let them go. Another thought arises, you let it go. Another thought arises, you just let it go. What comes to mind with that description? So it just screams boredom to me. This is not an exciting activity. However, if you practice it, it becomes comfortable because you're not caught up in your thoughts of boredom, because those could arise and you can let them go. Does anybody think that you could see circumstances where this could be useful? Well, let's throw one out.
I was in the plane flying back and I was ruminating on certain things.
As we do.
As we do. And I was like, okay, I recognized, and I was like, okay, I need to break this pattern because I couldn't break it. I kept going back to the same story.
Okay, so that's a good point. Is I couldn't break it. What does that mean? What are you doing when you have that kind of thought?
I was aware, maybe that
and you wanted to do something.
Yes, and I wanted to do something.
Yeah.
Change mental habit.
Yeah. Okay, so one of these things is learning how to just do nothing. Not get caught up in, I have to get my mind to shut up. So this is a different discipline as opposed to, like when you're about to speak, trying to counter some thought that arises that's going to make your speech sarcastic or angry or whatever. No. This is being able to just sit and because do thoughts have any power if you don't act? No. Well, we act on them. That's where their power is. So if we can learn to just be, no matter what's happening in our thoughts, they lose a lot of their power. We don't get so thrown by them. We don't feel like, oh, I can't believe I'm thinking like this. Why can't I stop it? Why? So that whatever other habit we might have, like beating ourselves up or finding someone to blame for it, like whatever you're ruminating about, surely that's someone else's fault. We could go that tactic, But if we can just accept, oh, that's what's arising in my mind. Can you see how that might have the power of boredom might come in handy then? If we don't fight it, if we don't give those states of mind any energy, because it's energetic to go, I can't stop this. Stop. Okay, so you can't stop it. Because we want to look at what we do when we wait. When we have nothing to distract us, or we've watched 7 movies on the airplane. I once went to New Zealand. It was a 14-hour flight and I couldn't fall asleep. And I think I watched 7 movies or at least 6 or something. It's like, who cares? You know, I couldn't tell you any one of those movies I watched, but you know, you just have to have something going on, right? No, you really don't have to have something going on. But we tend to do that. We tend to fill the space. So we don't sit with our minds. It's just a cause and effect. If you put your attention somewhere else, then you're not putting your attention on your mind. Yeah.
It sounds like that might not be boring. Watching.
Not acting is what's difficult. Not searching for some other thought that's more interesting, but literally just being with whatever it is. Because if you don't engage in the thought, if you engage in it, you're entertaining yourself. You know, if you go, oh, isn't that interesting? Now you're engaging with it. There's a difference there, and it's not easy to do. We like to be entertained. Yes.
Like someone that gets used to eat all the time. So you're used to get snacks throughout the whole day and say, okay, tomorrow I'm going on the fast. I'm not eating it. And the person who go for the first hour and they go like, this is crazy, I can't do it. Maybe something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's why we have in our tradition, Hernan brought up the example of when you're used to eating all the time, you know, and then you decide to go to fast the next day, that what it's like that first hour of fasting, of how your mind's continuously seeking or thinking it's just crazy. But you get used to it. I think that's why we have vows in this tradition as a ritual, and other traditions, you know, that you might take precepts or something. And so you just say you're not going to eat after noon or something, because then you've made a promise not to do it. And that's kind of different than the promises we make to ourselves. Oh, I said I was going to fast today, but, you know, I didn't succeed. Oh, well, you know, but if we make this commitment to it, and some people find that in sort of like a ritualized commitment has more force, you know, then you follow through and you discover, oh, I can do this, you know, and you actually even forget about it. Yes.
Directing it into your breath or a mantra, prayer, whatever you feel comfortable.
And that is being with sitting.
That's what I did.
Yeah. So you can anchor yourself on your breath, but that also, you know, it's all about not. This is why there's a point at which, you know, perhaps you've noticed, you know, in meditation, in a silent meditation, that the facilitator might say something like, okay, now ease your attention off the breath and just be, because we can make the breath our crutch for, you know, gives us something to do, you know, that helps us keep our minds from following our thoughts. Because the thought we now have is, I have to follow my breath. So we've given, you know, a convenient little thought to it. So these are different skills. You know, using your breath work is a really good way to learn how to sit. But then letting yourself let the breath just become part of what happens. You know, you don't, you know, and you just be. Oh, I'm just sitting. Thoughts arise. I mean, this is why things like plane travel are great for, you know, or when you're waiting at the doctor's office or something, you know. And most people pull out their phones, right? You know, and they do something. You know, so it's actually an opportunity to just be. What advantages are there to this skill? Any help, Graciela?
Breathing.
Well, you breathe, But how about just being able to be with your thoughts and with your body sitting there? So that also includes like, my knee hurts. My arm hurts. Oh, whatever. But you're not following it.
Working with the acceptance.
It could lead to acceptance. And it really shows us that we're not our thoughts. We're body and mind. Yep.
Well, I was thinking that cultivating, create a space for peace. Like
Create a space for peace.
So,
It's the mind's natural state. We just don't know that because we're always filling it with something to do. What do you think?
I tried to breathe first.
Yeah.
And just letting go.
And just letting go and letting it go and letting go. And then what's really nice is it's like when you're learning how to, just follow your breath, and then you realize you're not following your breath. And you don't have to think, let's go back to the breath. You just go back to the breath. You've already had the instruction. You know what the instruction is when you sit down, or after you sit down, and then, you can just, so it becomes automatic. So being able, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think that the main thing that has done for me when I'm able to do that, is how I'm able to transfer that to real life where I don't react also on my emotions.
Okay, so I just have two thoughts. Okay, so Gladys is talking about how one way when she's able to do it, that it allows you
To transfer to my daily life,
to not
react.
due to her emotional thoughts. Okay, so let me tell you, when you're sitting on a plane, it's your real life first.
Yeah.
When you're not doing it, when you are doing it, it's all real life. I remember one time I was at Thich Nhat Hanh's, at Plum Village, and one of the tourists like myself, said something about, but they had to go back to real life. I said, no, this is their real life. This is the life they've chosen. There's no separation. Our practice and the ways we discipline ourselves are part of our real life. That's the importance.
Is there an expression that people are happy in their own skin? How does that go?
Yeah, but whether they mean what I mean is another question entirely. So yes, but we want to develop a certain comfort with awareness of being. And one of its benefits is we learn really the thoughts can come and go. We don't have to do anything about it. We don't have to act on them. We don't have to dislike them. We don't have to, anything. They're just there and they go away fairly quickly. They're replaced. So the goal here isn't emptying the mind of all thought. If you have that goal, every time a thought comes up, what are you going to do? You're going to think about it. You're going to, depending on your habit of mind, you might beat yourself up or, whatever, or give up. Oh, I guess that's enough time. Let's just get up and go do something else. But being able to just learn how to just be with whatever's coming up in the body, whatever's coming up in the mind, and not act on it. Even like that's part of the aspect of the discipline of like, the Goenka, the 10-day Vipassana, so-called Vipassana retreats, where people don't move. So it doesn't matter what your body's telling you, you don't move. That's part of that discipline. You know, it's not, all of these are just tools. The goal isn't that you're able to sit without moving. That's not the goal. The goal is disciplining yourself to recognize that we do not have to respond to our thoughts. Because the pain in our body is not a thought. Our response to the pain in our body involves some thought. You know, like, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to move my knee, you know. So getting comfortable with just being aware of whatever's going through the mind without judgment, without any kind of conclusions about it, you know, is a way of, you know, like being a friend. You know how when you have your good friend just needs to talk and you just listen. You don't jump in with advice. You don't jump, you know, you just listen. You know. So we just learn to have, you know, to be. And learning that we actually don't have to act out from our thoughts from that vantage point gives us a lot of power. You know, these are why these kind of daily practices are important, so that we can discover all sorts of capacities that we have, like not acting on our thoughts. And it makes our thoughts a lot less cumbersome. You know, like it's like when we get angry, the part of the energy to me for anger is this wanting to be able to change what just happened or fix it or get even. I don't know, but there's some energy behind it, you know, that involves doing something. And that, how often does that work out? You know, it's not the best strategy when anger arises. You know, it tends to end up in hurt remarks or, you know, it just, ugh. Then you have to kind of deal with that, that yuckiness. Same is true of desire. Has anybody tried to give up an addiction? And you know how you have to just sit through the desire? Yeah. It's like, okay. I mean, I had to do this with so many things, you know, like when I gave up smoking, it took me years and I had to use every trick in the book. But it came down, the final piece I had to put in place was the acceptance that I'm going to suffer. I'm never going to just wake up and be a non-smoker. It just wasn't happening. Wasn't going to happen. So I had to tolerate, you know, the suffering, you know, and be accepting the fact that it's going to arise. And I don't have to act on it. I also had to do it with sarcasm, you know, of just, okay, I have a perfect sarcastic remark to this. If I want to have friends, maybe I should keep my mouth shut. You know, so I mean, it's like, you know, this is what we're trying to do with our, you know, our acting from our disturbing emotions, is trying to kind of realize, okay, I don't need to act from this place. And in fact, acting from these kind of places since beginningless time has caused us a lot of harm, a lot of pain and sorrow, you know, and we've inflicted that onto others as well. So it's just a big mess all the way around.
And that's where the Bodhisattva comes.
The what? Okay, in what way?
Well, you know, I'm always, you know, you could say things in a nice way that are still hurtful or not.
Oh, There is no end to our capacity to wound others. You know, this is part of this understanding. We have very sophisticated physical support for our mind. We can be very intelligent, and we can use that intelligence unwisely. I'm sorry?
I call it
A sneaky mind. Yes, and then it's just there, and we need to learn not to follow it. That, okay, so it came up. We don't need to engage in that kind of activity. But it helps to practice just not engaging with any of them. That just doesn't matter what arises.
Is sarcasm usually directed toward another person?
Oh, it can be directed towards everybody, yourself, others, people you don't know, fictional characters.
So if we have the sarcasm towards ourselves, if this car traffic gets any more worse, I'm going to meditate and go to heaven or something like that. And that would be directed towards myself. So,
Or go to hell.
yeah.
Choose your direction. Like we have a choice. We have the choice not to act on our thoughts. Our thoughts will arise. That's not the thing. What we want to do is really understand how limited the power of thoughts actually is. If we feed our thoughts, if we act from our thoughts, we are habituating ourselves to giving our thoughts all the power. But thoughts are just one aspect of mind. Awareness is at the backdrop of all of it. And becoming aware that just because you have a thought, it doesn't say anything. That's what minds do. They think. And eventually, if you don't feed these thoughts, they don't have so much power even when they arise, because you don't fall for it. You just know, it's just another thought. It's the way we respond to our thoughts that gives them power. And sometimes that's a good thing, when we have thoughts of being helpful and being kind and being, So it's not that, acting on all thoughts is a bad idea. We wouldn't do anything, would we? I mean, we have to function in our real life. So this is just, all these different tools that we develop through, that same old thing, like sit and meditate. But they're different strengths that come from that activity. And of course, it doesn't have to be like sitting on a cushion, but it does sort of have to be, when you're sitting with just sitting, it kind of becomes, more spacious if we give a little attention to our posture, open our heart physically. So their breath really can go in. It has a place to go instead of if you're like this, like I'm most of the time, But you don't let that be your goal. Your goal is not, I'm going to sit like the pictures of the statues of a Buddha and never move. Anytime we have a goal with our meditation, we kind of lost the plot already. Other than the goal or the discipline of sitting, preferably every day, but you can start with once a week. that this, the goal, it's like, that's just why I was talking about this did have a point, this mind is pure thing is, if your goal is to try to purify your mind as if, so that there no disturbing thoughts arise, no, whatever arise, that's going to interfere with your ability to let go of your thoughts. Because as soon as one of those thoughts that, ugly arise, you grab it and either scold yourself with it or distract yourself, to say, well, there's no point in me sitting here. I've got to just stop this ugly mind, whatever. I mean, whatever we use. Anyway. So if you develop the discipline, and it doesn't mean you'll be like successful every day. What does that mean, not being successful? What would be my definition of not being successful at meditating?
I would, what came to mind was not being successful is kind of like failing, but you're not really failing. It's just, you have to, it's an alert that you need to change your, the processes.
Well, you kind of like that thought arises and you let it go. But also the only real way you can fail is not to show up. It absolutely doesn't matter what happens other than showing up. This is my meditation time. This is the whole thing behind the ritual of having a place to meditate in your home, to have the same spot. It's all about getting, tricking your mind into, oh, I know what to do now. Just like when you get in the shower, you kind of know what you're going to do, unless you're quitting smoking and you haven't had oxygen for a long time. You get in the shower and you don't know what you're doing. I had that exact experience. But the point is, that's one of the benefit of having a spot. Now, not everybody has a spot, you just don't have one. So you have to make do. You have to just use that decision in your mind that says, I'm going to go sit and meditate now as your cue, and you go do that. But that's why we use tools as supports to, just, oh yeah, I know what I'm supposed to do now. This is why I like to sit on a cushion. Because as soon as I sit on the cushion, I have a whole different starting point. No, I don't like to stand up from a cushion. I don't even like to sit down on the cushion, but I like being on a cushion. So, so it's good to have a chair. If you don't sit on cushions, to have a chair that you can sit up straight in and that's comfortable and that's supportive and that you don't go, oh God, I don't want to sit in that chair. You don't want to use that kind of chair. Like these wonderful chairs here. So. So what are your thoughts at home, folks? You out in Zoom land? How do you do with sitting? Hi, Elaine.
Hi. I try to practice it every day. My mind goes crazy thinking of 5 million different things at once. But I do practice where you don't engage with the thoughts and you kind of just let them pass with like clouds. And I notice changes in the way I react to people. I don't react now. I mean, even when they're in my face, I might not perfect at it, but definitely I notice a big change. I wait and I breathe and I think, because I can also tend to be very sarcastic and what I call my Jersey girl self. And I don't want to be that. So I'm practicing these techniques so that I can improve on that.
And you see, I think Elaine, nailed the point. None of this is about becoming a skilled sitter. This is about the effect it has when you're not sitting.
Yeah.
So so that's excellent. I'm thrilled for your experience.
I
That's
work at
fine
it.
for me too. Yep.
I work at it very hard.
It is effortful. Make no mistake, this is no different than going to the gym. Yes. More.
There's a function of positive reinforcement, I find, or I sit, practice, or it spills over. My regular life.
The other parts of your day, you mean?
And this for meditation, part of your life, beyond that, for life to be part of your meditation. But the more I accomplish sitting and calm abiding, the more relaxed I get with that, and the easy, I don't want to say easier, but the more natural it becomes.
What's a habit?
The habit.
It becomes a habit.
And there's a positive reinforcement to that when you recognize it.
Well,
It helps you
only
get on the cushion more and do it more when you're not on.
so Boyce brought up positive reinforcement that, it's like it builds on itself, Why is it positive reinforcement? What goes with positive reinforcement? A benefit. It can also give you a negative thing, like some people who buy into this idea that, I have to torture myself at the gym to really be fit or something, and if they don't hurt, they haven't done enough. So that's sort of negative reinforcement, so it's just sort of like the reason it's positive is because it does actually, in fact, benefit. And that's what you need to be curious about, because that benefit doesn't happen the first time. It doesn't happen every time. What we need to be curious is about what happens if I do this for a long time. Make it part of my life. Not just something I think about making a part of my life, but actually do it. Just a second, Steve. But actually, do it without going, well, I think I've done that long enough. Just being curious, keeping that mind of curiosity open to the experience, and not have some idea, preconceived notion, which we're going to have, those thoughts will arise, but of what you should get out of it every time you sit down, because that won't work. Then you're just meditating sort of on what you're going to get out of it. Whereas, it's just like going to the gym, or your daily exercise. It's not like, that. What do we usually find if we've been going to the gym regularly for a long time? What happens when we don't go? We miss it. No, I'm not saying we get attached. We notice that whatever benefit it gives us on a daily basis or 3 times a week basis or whatever it is missing. And it doesn't have to be glaringly obvious. It's just a feeling. That's how I feel about meditation. Is that if I don't do it, there's a shift, and and I miss it. So there's some benefit to me, even though my meditations don't look like anything spectacular.
Conviction. It all starts with conviction.
Yep.
You know.
Well, actually, it really starts with curiosity. We have to find out. This is not something you can read in a book and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then you're there. And you actually have to do it. And you have to do it again and again and again. It has to become part of your life, like brushing your teeth. You know?
I benefit from listening to recorded mantras and prayers and practices like Bodhisattva. which I
Mhm.
do that every- And my mind can really kind of, just really get clear and focused on that, those recordings, because I find them very powerful.
Yep.
When I sit and meditate with no recording, then it just feels like I'm daydreaming, which is what I do so much of the time anyway. It just doesn't feel like there's much of a difference.
Yeah. So, yes. And why would you guess that there's a reason for that? What reason could you come up with for that difference?
Between the recording and because for me, the recording is an object and my mind can hold on to it.
Right. It entertains you. It grabs you. But that's all right.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, hey, this is why we also do Bodhisattva. So nothing wrong with that. But it's a different skill.
Right.
It's a different skill and it's got a different benefit. Like you said, it allows you to just settle and focus, which what is the side effect of that, side benefit of that? What are you not?
Increase concentration.
Well, you're increasing your concentration, but you're also letting go of all that crud we usually are thinking about. It's like when we get caught up in a good book. It's better than when we get caught up in a good book because you're getting caught up in a good practice. So but it's that, oh, for a moment, I am freed from all the other stuff that weighs me down. So the benefit of learning how to sit with whatever arises is a different benefit. It means that when you're out in the world with all that crud going on, you can handle it in a different way. It doesn't beat you up, or pull you this way and that way. You just, it just comes up and goes, Now, it doesn't mean we don't struggle and we don't have difficulties and just because we learn how to do this one skill. That's not it. But we have a lot less regret over the acting out from states of mind that are not helpful. They may still arise, you may still, blah, blah, blah. But if we get in the habit of not following, not engaging, not getting caught up in those thoughts, we have more energy to deal with life, with what's going on, because we're not draining ourselves of energy through the way we deal with our thinking, because thinking's going to go on. But when it's like when you get caught up in a worry, and it's almost like then you're multitasking because, whatever's over here that you're actually doing has to compete with the mind that's worrying about this over here. And then if you're really a supreme warrior, then you have another, oh yeah, and there's another thing. Don't forget this one. It's like you're trying to, what is it? Spinning plates. And it's exhausting. So learning to be able to, drop the plates, just let them go, gives us the energy to actually do whatever it is we're doing. And then being able to do whatever we're doing takes a certain ability to stay with what's going on now, instead of going, what's going to be happening an hour from now, or what I just left behind. Because we really drain ourselves of energy when we try to be everywhere all at once.
So it's hard to focus on what you're doing now if something difficult going on in your brain about something else.
Yeah, you can't, and that's the thing. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking what's been really helpful to me is to remind myself that what is going on in my mind is not real.
Well, and it's not you. We have this mistaken idea that if it's going on in my mind, that that's who I am. And if we don't like it, then, it can have all sorts of other thoughts.
I used to believe all my worries, and I used to feel them because I believed that, so now when I remind myself, it never happened,
Yeah.
help, it lightens it up for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So Graciela is talking about how, just reminding herself when the worries, take blossom, in the mind, that they're not real. Worries really are about something that hasn't happened yet. Because it's different from the suffering we feel when somebody we care about suffers, worry is a different aspect. We pretend it's problem solving, but it's actually not. It's just ruminating about something that's happened that you can't change. It has happened. That's the way it is. And now you're just caught up in what the future might hold because this has happened. Or we think this might happen. Does that make sense?
Somebody else here told me about my problem with meditating. Couldn't meditate, so the business stole $10 from me. I could afford the $10, but interfering with my meditation. They said, that happened, that's over there. My meditation is here and now. And the two are separate,
Mhm.
kind of compartmentalizing.
It's not even blah, 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 blah. It's easy for me to say. It's not even God, I can't say
Compartmentalizing.
that word. It's not even
Compartment, not even that.
not even that. So it's literally, you're not living your life. If you're back there, it's something that happened 15 minutes ago. It's not what's happening now. But we think we have to hold on to something that happened 15 minutes ago, because that's important. Whether it's something that we dislike that happened 10 minutes ago, or whether it's something we really like that happened 10 minutes ago, the truth is it's not happening now. And there is absolutely no benefit to holding on to it in the now. Because then you're just living in a daydream. You're not living your life, you're living the past or the future. And it's so, what's the point of that? None of this is easy, because what is the myth that we're holding on to when we worry or revisit something we liked and just think about, daydream about it? What's the mythology we have? What does that tell us about what we believe? Anybody ever take an umbrella with you so that it doesn't rain? Yeah, but somehow our very thoughts, have so much power. It's like, oh, if I worry about it, it won't happen. If I think this is going to happen, it won't happen, which is why you don't want to jinx, your lottery ticket or something. It's like, but it's ridiculous, folks. It doesn't work that way. And we suffer because of it. If we're just daydreaming about something good that we'd like to have happen again, what happens with the daydream ends? Well, and that grasping for that good thing that arises again. It's like you're just stuck in this endless craving cycle. It's just all suffering. Holding on to the bad things. It's obvious that's suffering. Let's slap myself in the face again. Oh, I like that. Oh, this is what we're doing with our minds, folks. We're just going, oh, let me punish myself further. There's no point in it. None. but we do if we feel like we have to act on our thoughts. So it's really good because you're not going to control the thoughts. The thoughts will arise, you know? It just, yes, it becomes a habit. So it's not that habits are all bad. We have some really good habits. We see someone who needs help, we offer to help. That's a really nice habit. What we want to do is practice the habits that do not cause us suffering. So daydreaming can be a habit that causes suffering. We have to check up and see if that is that fantasy life we have about how good it would be if, is that a source of our suffering? With that fantasy we have of, oh, if that only hadn't happened. Good luck with that, And I mean, it takes effort to actually go, well, let go of that. It did happen. And it's really interesting that we actually have to, work with reality. But we do. It becomes chemical. Yeah, because our body is, again, just a reflection. I mean, the mind is, we all know how much worse pain is when we're unhappy. Because we can ignore so much pain when we're very deliriously happy. When you're lost, I'm sorry, laughing and not, right. When you're experiencing, you're not thinking. That's the importance of living your life. If you're always just caught up in your thoughts about the past or the future, you're not experiencing anything. It's like when we criticize people who live behind their cameras on trips. We think, oh, they're not actually on this vacation, their cameras on the vacation, but we are doing it too. I mean, it's just like, the people do that for the same reason we do it, people who are because we want to make things permanent. Let's hold this moment. Let's grab this moment and fix it in time. We all have that habit.
Everybody smile.
And everybody's fun. Let's make it a fake moment. Family photos are the best. I'm just teasing. So this is the thing. So our understanding that all of this comes back to a root that says keeping things permanent means I'm not going to have to die. It's just this, we have this, self-protection habit that's very, very powerful. And it makes sense. It's not that it's foolish, but we need to recognize how often our grasping is about this idea that somehow if I get everything to stay just as it is, I'm safe. And having uncertainty, how unsafe uncertainty feels. But in fact, we're uncertain all the time. We just can pretend that we're going to all walk out of this room and we'll see each other next week. There's no basis in fact for that. Are the odds good? I don't know. That's the uncertainty of our impermanence. That's just the way it is. But we're constantly seeking ways to be safe. And we're focused on the wrong thing. Trying to make things that are impermanent permanent cannot work. So it's kind of like the energy that's, where you think that saying that sarcastic remark or something is going to somehow balance the world again. It was out of balance a little bit. So now I'm going to balance it, and I'm going to feel safe and secure in my little spot, whatever. And then later on, you go, I can't believe I said that. This is that, acting from a place that wants to be safe, or the strongest, or the smartest, or the rightest. That's a word, that it's just like, or the I couldn't care less about what you just said to me is. That holding on to our reputation so dear that will, say something, do something or other, to kind of slap someone else in the face. All of that is an ineffective strategy to be safe. You end up absolutely not safe because you harm the very community that we depend upon. We need each other, and we need each other's kindness. And we need that kindness to arise in those moments where someone else isn't being so kind. So being able to be comfortable, I can bring this back to a point. It's a miracle when this happens. Developing this skill of being able to let your thoughts, just not do anything with them. Don't judge them. Don't, they just come and go. Being able to do that, you're going to see some pretty ugly thoughts. Anybody have ugly thoughts? Greedy thoughts, like, ooh, whatever. I mean, we have lots of thoughts. We have lots of nice thoughts, but we also have lots of like questionable thoughts, you could say, if you were going to judge them. The more we can just accept that that's the way the mind is, how does that help us with others?
Same thing.
It's really getting, when we get to know our own minds, we get to know everyone. Because everybody's dealing with the same stuff. Yeah. For ourselves, hopefully, and others. Because, and again, it's partly because thoughts are so fluid, right? So holding on to them as if they mean anything, they define you in any way, is in the same thing with other people's actions towards us, since unfortunately we can't read their minds. So, it's like, oh, this is just a moment in time. And they let that moment in time be controlled by some thought that wasn't skillful. There's no need to react to it. Now, you might need to get out of the way. There are certain actions that are, worthy of getting out of the way. We don't want to be an idiot. So, but you know what I mean? So it's the more we get to know ourselves, the more actually we're getting to know everyone, because we're not different. And the more that we can have really deep compassion for people whose mind, who have mental health issues far outside of our own experience, because it must be terrible to have that kind of mind. A mind that's either so afraid, people go experiencing a moment of PTSD. Is that right? Okay, right order. That in that moment, that mind is horrifying. People who are just hooked on anger, hooked on fear or arrogance, or thinking that, power is the answer to everything. Those are not nice minds to have. Can you, never mind. I won't go there. Won't go there. Don't go there. Oh.
You made us curious.
Can you repeat that for me? Yeah, we're fast, aren't we? Yeah, because we haven't really let go of the thought. The thing is, our mind's really fast. And so it can seem like it got away from me. It's like, oh, I said that before. The good news is that if we regret something we do right away, that's going to help us counter it the next time. So it has some, benefit to being able to go, oh, and I reel that back in, which of course we can. What does that give you the opportunity to do in that moment? What else? We can actually own it and apologize. We don't have to justify it in any way to ourselves or the other person. Oh, I'm sorry, I was just caught up in other, we can just, oh, that was a terrible thing to say. I'm sorry. Or that was a inconsiderate thing to say. I'm sorry. Yes. Especially, you know how sometimes you see it in someone's face? You just see it. And if we can own that and just say, oh, I can see my words hurt you. I am really sorry, I'm sorry. Because in those moments, your intention isn't to harm, but being able to own. I mean, there's some moments where we are intending to harm. We're trying to, assert ourselves over someone else. But when it happens and we weren't intending to harm, if we own it, that we did in fact harm, that allows that spaciousness of not going, how did I get, if to understanding that other person, where you're allowing whatever it is for them in. A meta meditation type thing that, yes, of wishing someone well, wishing peace, wishing, we really want. And this is the nice thing about habit, is if we practice this idea of maybe I be at peace, may they be at peace, may everyone be at peace. If that becomes habitual, that's the kind of thought that's probably going to arise following a moment like that for yourself as well as other. We are going to make mistakes. So we need to be able to have that wish for ourselves and others. And the more we habituate ourselves to that, this is why it's a good practice to conclude or begin a meditation with, to develop that habitual thought of, that this is the me I want to be present. And it's just, when you just let yourself think about, how wonderful it is that most of us have those kind of thoughts of, may you be well, may you be free of suffering. We see someone suffering and we really wish they weren't. How grand is that? This is our, this is like a manifestation of our Buddha nature. This is, and this is the basis for which, we can lessen our actions that cause ourselves suffering in the future. It's so wonderful. I mean, it's a wonderful thing we share. Would you like some more water?
Thank you.
Don't you hate that? I hate it when it happens to me. I'm sorry. It won't last. I know. And the bad thing is it won't last. The good news is consciousness never ends. So this body's, and I'm at that point, in life where it's kind of like, okay, I'm okay with losing this body. No problem. Move on. Just don't make me suffer in the next body. We grasp at everything. Anyway, so, okay, so let's take a moment to rejoice in our efforts this morning to try to look at stuff from different perspectives. And rejoice that we all have this, inclination towards a spiritual path, trying to do less harm. And we can rejoice about all the things that are happening all around the world of people, of their manifestation of their Buddha nature, all the ways in which people are helping others, all the things that people have learned in order to be able to help others, all the small acts, the huge acts. I used to know a group of people who would go down to Colombia to act as human shields for people to walk out of the jungle so they wouldn't get shot. People do amazing things for others. And that's a wonderful thing. So we can rejoice in all of that. We don't have to be envious or feel bad about ourselves that we're not one of those people. We can just be happy that there are people like that. So we want to dedicate all this, the merits that come from all these actions of kindness and patience and wisdom and everything else that goes into positive action to be a benefit to others. So somebody's on top of it. So we want to recite the Shanti Davis prayer. Do we have any announcements before I go there? Anybody know? I don't think so.
We have yoga on Tuesday nights.
Okay. And this is our beloved yoga teacher. And
Yes.
I won't do that again. I need your yoga class, obviously. But, that's not going to happen. So I always hurt myself. Okay.
And on the 15th, we have a sound bowl.
Right.
All these things are on the website calendar. And if you're not on the mailing list, you can get on the mailing list. Right? So the
Email list.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I rejoice that you all survived your family outings. You're not in jail. That's all, those are good things. So, okay. Okay. Do I have to say anything else? Page 246 if you need that. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. And then the long life prayers for His Holiness on page 244 or something, yeah. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All powerful Chenrezig, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. And then the request for the return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, it's on page 234 in your book, maybe. And it's up on the screen. It's on the screen, Graciela, if it's not taped in your book. You got it. Okay. What page is it on? 324? 232?
234.
Thank you. I thought that's what it was. Okay. All right. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious one, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Lozan father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice. You wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all at home.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Venerable
Thank you,
Tendron,
Tandra. That was wonderful.
just
Thank
to
you.
say that if there was so announcement, they were not hearable. I'm sorry.
Okay, they're on the calendar, but it's things like things that are happening at the center. So it probably doesn't apply.
Thank you.
Sorry, but they're on the calendar. So everybody take good care.
Next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye, Tal.
Bye-bye. Bye, Brian.
Bye now.